Welcome to Day 6 of Natural Beauty Summit's Detox Your Beauty Regimen series. I'm Salome Sallehy, founder and president at Sugar Wax, a clean beauty company. And today I have Dr. Lauren Powell shedding some light on the power of the simple act of cooking your own food. Dr. Lauren isn't your typical MD. She's also known as the culinary doctor, but her role in the medical community goes far beyond the health of her individual patients. She is on a mission to end generational health issues among the African American community. While some of us are just waking up to some of the unjust realities that the African American community faces, Dr. Lauren has not only faced some of those challenges herself, but she has dedicated her career to do her part in uplifting her community through health. If you have been a part of the Natural Beauty Summit community for some time, then you've already seen some of our messages about the Black Lives Matter movement, which is happening right now, that we are in absolute support of. But if you're new to the community, I just want to take a minute and thank you and welcome you to our inclusive and diverse community. Thank you for joining us as we fight against toxic ingredients and we fight against toxic racism and racial inequality. Detoxing your beauty regimen is similar to detoxing a racist system in that it all starts with education. I am beyond grateful that Dr. Lauren has made time to share her wisdom around how the simple act of cooking food can change, if not save your life. Stay tuned for my interview with her. Hi everyone, and welcome to Natural Beauty Summit. I am here today with the culinary doctor, Dr. Lauren Powell, and we're going to be talking about the importance of cooking at home and how it can actually save your skin, save your life. Hi, Dr. Powell, how are you?
Good, how are you? Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for being with us. You are the only nutritionist that we actually have on the show, so I'm so glad we were able to get you. Such an important topic because we've talked about food and intake and nutrition so much in this series. And the reality is that we live in a fast food, easy calories world. And you talk about cultivating this culture of cooking at home.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about how you do that with your patients and why it's important for our health to cook?
Yes, of course. So, it really comes from changing our mindset about food. When I think about my food, of course, I want it to taste amazing and be delicious, but it needs to serve my body in some kind of way. So I always try to start with my patients with that respect. So, I'm a board certified family medicine physician. So I'm seeing patients in a variety of age ranges and a variety of medical conditions. And so, for instance, if you eat something like a donut, it takes like 3 minutes to eat a donut and it tastes good, but then that's it. Like there's nothing beyond just enjoying it in that moment. It doesn't serve your body in any kind of way. Versus putting something nutritious in your body, maybe it doesn't taste as good as a donut, but it's going to serve your body after you've eaten it. So it really comes first from changing our mindset and how we view food. I always tell my friends and my family, I think about food, how I think about people. Like, I only want you in my life if you're adding value. And that's the same thing with food. Like, I'm only going to put food in my body that's adding value. And so oftentimes it starts with us having to cook and prepare our food. Because unfortunately, when we buy our food, we can't always control what's in it. And so we end up eating things that are more processed, things that have more sugar, things that have more salt than if we had prepared it at home.
Right. And you see a lot of different types of deficiencies. What are some of the most common ones, and what are like the essential like vitamins or minerals that we're missing?
Sure. So like malnourishment, I think sometimes when we think about the word malnourished, we think you have to be like a, you know, super skinny looking person from a foreign country, but you can be morbidly obese and be malnourished. Like you're getting more than enough calories, but you're not getting the right stuff in your body. So I see a lot of people that oftentimes when they just have like vague symptoms like, oh, just, I kind of feel tired, I sleep, I don't feel well rested when I wake up in the morning, just vague stuff. Usually they're probably deficient in some kind of vitamin or mineral. So I think it's always great to just start with a multivitamin because we can all benefit from a multivitamin, and it's hard to overdose on a multivitamin. So an age appropriate, gender specific multivitamin, I think, is a great place to start. Oftentimes my patients are vitamin D deficient. People don't go outside. They just don't go outside. We want to spend time in front of the television or on our computer. And we have vitamin D, the inactive form, in our skin, but we have to spend time outdoors in order for it to be converted to the active form. And so a lot of times we're not spending a lot of time outdoors, especially during like those colder months. So I see a lot of people deficient in vitamin D. Then again, if you're a minority patient, you have any kind of melanin in your skin, that melanin can prevent that conversion in your skin. And so oftentimes I'm seeing people deficient in vitamin D. And once you get them, started on a good regimen, they often feel better. And they don't even know that they can feel better until they start feeling better and know, like, I didn't even know I could feel this way. So I think a good multivitamin is a good place to start. Vitamin D is great to start. Oftentimes patients have trouble sleeping, and I think sleep is important. It affects so many other systems in our body. So I always want to work on people's sleep. Usually I'm starting with sleep hygiene and then some melatonin. Melatonin is great. It kind of helps with our circadian rhythm. And it's also anti-inflammatory. So then that's great too. For my patients that have any kind of inflammatory process, if they have a history of any kind of cardiac or heart disease, we're going to start talking about fish oil as a supplement as well. So those are generally the basic ones that I start with. And then depending on like the individual, we kind of will go a little bit deeper.
And sleep health and sleep hygiene is so important because so much of our detox happens during our sleep. So thank you for touching on that. Now, we've talked about different ailments, and sometimes, as we discussed, a lot of ailments show up on our skin before we realize like what's really going on inside. So can you share some examples of those? Because I think it's important that, like, for some of our viewers who are experiencing like psoriasis, eczema, acne, all of those things, to have a little bit of an understanding of what are some of the potential underlying health issues.
Right. So a lot of times skin manifestations are just like a manifestation of what's going on internally. So if you have an inflammatory skin disease, a lot of times it's due to some kind of inflammation that's going on internally. So oftentimes I'll see patients and I'll know like their diet is just not right. I know that they're not putting the best stuff in their body. There's a condition well known in diabetics called acanthosis nigricans, and that's when they have like basically a dark, like kind of like a darkened area around the neck. And you see it in minority patients, and then you can see it in Caucasian patients as well. And usually that's a sign of some pre-diabetes or diabetes. That's usually one of the first markers. Sometimes I'll see it a lot in the younger people who are, school age, and I'm talking to mom, like, listen, they're already having skin manifestations that their body's getting too much sugar and their body is not processing it well. Also for my patients who are like asthmatics, have lots and lots of allergies, and then I'll see them kind of with, different acne and different skin kind of rashes and things. A lot of times, again, they're putting inflammatory things in their diet. So we have to talk about their dairy. We have to talk about their gluten intake. We have to talk about the sugar and all the processed things that they're putting in their body.
Wow. So what do you recommend for parents? Like, as a mom, I mean, I have two little ones. It's so hard to get between them and the sugar.
It is really hard.
And I'm terrified. I literally threaten them every day. I'm like, do you want to get needles every day? You're going to develop diabetes. And I don't know if I'm being effective. What advice do you have?
It's hard because it's not like you have control over what they eat all the time, right? Like they go to school or they go to somebody else's home. And so you can't always control it. So I think introducing them early to healthy things, studies have shown when kids are introduced to healthy things, they literally desire it. So introducing them to fruits and vegetables and those things that I'm sure you're already doing, those are the things that they're going to desire. I remember before I got into medical school, I was actually a nanny when I was like trying to get into medical school. And so I used to take care of this Jewish family and all their kids. And I would like pick them up from school and like I would bring them home and I'd like cook food for them. And it was stuff that they weren't used to having. And I remember one summer, hot day, I was like, let me make you guys some Slurpees. And they didn't even know what a Slurpee was. And when they tasted it, because their diet was so low in sugar, it was so overwhelming for them that they didn't even like it. And these
Wow.
kids were like 9, they were middle school age, elementary school age, so old enough where they had eaten enough things in their life. And so that just reinforced to me, and it showed me then, even before medical school, that our palate is trained. And so it can go both ways. So you can train your body to not desire super sugary things. If you're someone that's eaten a lot of sugary things, you can kind of untrain your palate and slowly detox and wean yourself off from that. When I'm talking to my patients a lot about coffee, because coffee gets a lot of people, while coffee is fine, people want to load it up and make it like a dessert. And I say, coffee is great, but the best way to drink it is black. And they'll say like, oh my God, I could never drink black coffee. Like, your palate can be trained. Like, if you slowly wean off, your palate will be okay with it, and it will think that it tastes great, but it does take time.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because I used to be one of those people that would be like, oh my God, I need cream and sugar in my coffee. I can't drink it otherwise. And then I did a cleanse and you couldn't have cream or sugar. So I would just like maybe add in like a little soy milk or something. But what was amazing is after like my 2-week cleanse, I couldn't even go back to cream or sugar. It just tasted disgusting. So it doesn't
Right?
even take that long.
It
On
really
the
doesn't.
Yeah, on that topic of sugar, let's get into diabetes a little bit more, because you have achieved some incredible results with some really, really simple recommendations. Now, you told me about this one patient that you had who had pretty extreme diabetes, like you were just about to put him on insulin.
Yeah, my patient, I saw him. I saw him 2 days ago. I think we were talking about him, and he was someone that had been. So a lot of times when we're managing diabetes, we try to get you managed on pills first. But usually, after 3 different pills, if you're on like 3 things and we can't get you controlled, a lot of times that means you need insulin. And so I had this patient. He was on 3 different oral medications, the max dose of all of those medications, and his hemoglobin A1C, which is what we use to like kind of diagnose diabetes, was like 9.9. So diabetes is like 6.5 and up. So he was like 9.9. And so I'm like, sir, we're not doing it. Like, we're not meeting the goal. And he's like, well, I don't want to be on diet. I don't want to be on insulin. And which I don't want to put you on insulin. It's like, who wants to be pricking themselves? And like, that's just so annoying. Like, I don't want that either. But I also recognize, by letting you walk around with a hemoglobin A1C of 9.9 and sugar, going through your bloodstream, I'm putting you at risk for a stroke and heart attack. So I don't want that either. And so he's like, well, let me just really, really do the diet stuff. And the thing was, we had been talking about diet for like this whole time. Like, I'm not going to talk to you about your diabetes without talking about your food, your sleep, and your exercise. So we had been talking about it. So I was kind of like, I gave you a chance type of deal, right? Like, we've done this. I gave you a chance and you haven't made a difference. And he's just like, Doc, I do not want to be on insulin. Give me 3 more months. So I said, okay, that's fine. You can have 3 months. Mind you, then it happened around the pandemic time, right? So he had 3 months to like really focus on nutrition. And I told him, you don't have to do like all these drastic, crazy things. Stop drinking the soda. Stop drinking the sweet tea. Your main beverage should be water. When you eat food, half of your plate should be vegetables. Like, just make half of it vegetables. And then if you want to have meat, the other quarter can be some kind of lean meat. And then if you want to have carbs, but you don't have to have a carbohydrate with every meal, you don't have to. But if you do, it can be a quarter of the plate. And I said, stay away from all white stuff. No white bread, no white rice, no white potatoes. We get no white stuff. White stuff is just going to turn into sugar. So just no white stuff. And move your body every day for 20 minutes minimum. And moving means you have to sweat. If you didn't sweat, if it was a leisure walk, you didn't do it. You have to sweat. So he's like, okay, I'm committed. I'm going to do it. And so he came to see me, and he had lost 20 pounds. And it was funny because when I walked in the room, I was just thinking about his like sugar. Like I didn't even notice his weight. And so I get to the computer and he's like, Doc, you didn't say anything about my weight loss. And I was like, oh, my bad. I'm sorry. Look, let me see. And I was like, you lost 20 pounds. He was like, yes. And his A1C went from 9.9 to 7.1, which is like huge. Like you usually don't see a change that much in a 3-month period. Usually it'll go down by like 0.5, so to see that significant change in him, it was amazing. And he's like, I feel so good. Like he felt so good. And then he was like, let me call my wife on speakerphone because, he wanted me to give that praise report in front of her so that, he could get those extra brownie points when he got home, which I was like, of course, proud to do for him. And so it just shows me and it shows him this stuff works. Like, this is not magic. This is not like a secret potion or formula. Like, if you're mindful about the food that you put in your body, your health will get better. Like, it's a guaranteed. And it doesn't matter what your health condition is, whether it's skin, whether it's diabetes, whether it's blood pressure, it's going to get better.
Absolutely. And what I think is a little bit understated there is like what you're recommending is really, really simple. Like, stop drinking the sugary drinks. You don't need to drink that much sugar because it goes down too fast and too easy. Yeah. And, the like half your plate vegetables, quarter protein, quarter carb, it's not like insane. People have seen this diagram. Yeah. But like the results, I think the other thing that like we talked about and you touched on, which I thought was so important, is that just talking about it, having that conversation with the patients makes them aware. Yeah. But that's like half the battle. It just makes them more like conscious of what they're putting in their bodies and what they're putting in their mouth. But for clarification, you said a quarter of the plate could be carbs, and as like a carb loving person, but it can't be white. So what are our options here?
You're like, what's left? So like wild rice, black rice, sweet potato, purple potatoes, beans, noodles that are made out of maybe like legumes, like chickpeas. I mean, there's lots of stuff. You can have some of your vegetables. You can have cauliflower rice. You can have zucchini noodles.
What about quinoa? Is that a grain?
What'd you say?
Quinoa?
Quinoa is great. Yeah, quinoa is great. Yeah, that has all of your 9 essential amino acids. And so there's not a lot of foods that do that. So quinoa is great.
Okay, amazing. Okay. So the idea of cooking at home could be really daunting. I mean, I think we are probably now as a culture starting to become more accustomed to that with like having to be sheltered in place and having to cook our own meals. But you have some great recipes that you share with your patients, and you do a lot of work to lead them down this culinary journey. Can you share one recipe with us that's like 15 minutes, easy, healthy, and yummy? Sure. Not a tall order at all.
No, right. Like I'm all about like a 15, 20-minute meal. I'm all about preparation. I think preparation is like the biggest thing. That's going to be the biggest thing that saves you time. So like for me on Saturday, I'll usually plan what we're going to eat for the week. And so I usually plan to cook like 4 days out of the week. And so I'm hoping those other days will be leftovers. So I plan our meals. And then Sunday I do my grocery shopping. I wash everything. I chop everything and put it away. So that when it comes to making a meal, I'm literally like grabbing, tossing, and like that's something simple. So usually every week I'll make some kind of pasta because pastas are a great way to put all the food groups in like one dish. I can also, my husband is very picky and he's one of those like, I don't eat vegetables. And so I have to kind of like sneak stuff in. So pastas are a great way for me to do that. And then also I can make a lot. So I can make a pasta and probably get 2 to 3 meals from him out of it. So I like to use bonza noodles. I don't know if you're familiar with bonza noodles. They're my favorite. They're made out of chickpeas. So they literally take chickpeas and they grind them up, make a flour, and then create noodles out of them. So what's good about a chickpea noodle versus like a regular noodle is you're getting tons of fiber and you're getting like 16 grams of protein, which you're not going to get that in a noodle, like a regular flour noodle. So I love those. So I also like to make my own sauce. So like I'll batch up sauce, jar it up and put it in the fridge. And so literally I'll cook some ground turkey. I'll do chicken, I'll do shrimp, whatever protein. And then I just add whatever vegetables I want. And I pretty much cut them small. So like I'm always going to put spinach, because spinach is something that has like, it doesn't have a strong taste. It doesn't overpower the meal. So I'll chop up some spinach. I'll throw that in the pasta. I also like to chop up carrots, because carrots add like a nice sweetness. They can add a nice crunch. And you don't really know what you're eating when it's like covered in like a marinara sauce. So I usually throw in some carrots. And then I like to add mushrooms, because mushrooms are super nutritious. And if they also have a meaty taste. So sometimes what I'll do, if I'm like running low on like ground turkey, I'll do like half the amount of ground turkey, but then I'll do a ton of mushrooms. And I'll cut them up very fine and mix them together so it just seems like it's meat, because mushrooms have what we call umami flavor, which is like a meaty flavor. So you kind of get the impression that you're eating meat. So like a spaghetti or some kind of pasta like that is one of my like go-tos for the week.
That is awesome. So Dr. Powell also has a cookbook that y'all can download that she'll be sharing with us, and we'll include the link to that. Any final words on for our audience as they embark on their culinary journey?
Yeah, I would just say, try to make small, tangible changes. Like, don't worry about making these crazy, big, huge changes that are going to be hard for you to maintain. You're trying to make lifestyle changes. And so you don't want to make a 30-day change or a week change. You want to incorporate things that you can do for a lifetime. So start small. Slow and steady always wins the race. I tell my patients, slow and steady always wins the race. So if you make health the priority and not necessarily weight, the weight is always going to fall off, but don't make it the thing that you focus on. Start small, like even a half-made homemade meal. Like I tell my one friend hates to cook. She's a psychiatrist. She like hates cooking. And she has a thing where she'll only like to make sides. So I say, listen, buy like a rotisserie chicken from your grocery store and then just make the sides, because it's at least a half-made homemade meal, which is better than a 100% store-bought meal, right? So start small. It makes a difference. Get your kids involved as early as possible, because this is how they learn. This is what gets them excited about food. We can't unfortunately leave it up to our schools, because, they do all kind of crazy things. I was reading about like some of their guidelines, and they are allowed to classify pizza as a vegetable because of the marinara sauce, which is like crazy to me, because number one, tomatoes are a fruit. They're not even a vegetable, but we know that pizza is not a vegetable, right? But they have to have a certain number of vegetables that they serve. And so they're allowed to count pizza. They're allowed to count French fries because they're made from potatoes. So we really have to do this stuff at home, because they're not going to get it anywhere else. And so set the foundation strong at home. Don't feel like you have to be perfect, and just stay the course.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. We're going to have to link those chickpea pastas as well, because that sounds awesome. I want to try it. And I bet you guys do too. So we'll be sure to link that. Where can our audience find you?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, everywhere as Dr. Lauren Powell. That's DrLaurenPowell. And if you go to Instagram at The Culinary Doctor, it's all food. So all food, all health, like quick tips. So that's like a great place for you to go, just to like, if you want to scroll and get like a meal idea, that stuff is easy breezy there. Download the free cookbook. It's 10 recipes of just budget, because I'm always like on a budget, because I was in school for a decade. So I'm forever living on a budget. So it's budget friendly meals, everything about 30 minutes or less. All meals should cost you less than $30 for a family of 4, which is like a steal. It's a mix of vegetarian meals, some with meat, some with seafood. So check it out. That's dinnerwithdrlauren.com. And you can download that free cookbook and get started with that. And yeah, follow me on Instagram. That's where I like to hang out the most. So I would love to see you guys there.
Thank you so much. There you have it, folks. The Culinary Doctor. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.